Ballpark Nation presents. Welcome to Go Astros, your look at the two-time World Series champions from three guys who have been here since Art Howe had hair.
Well, we are back here for our first in-season edition of Go Astros. The season started for everyone else last Thursday. The Astros apparently lost their luggage with their offense in it on the way back from Florida. With us, as always, is Brian Arbor, who I know whose only job is here is to make us feel a little bit better about this weekend. And, of course, Andy Tom Jessen, who believes the Astros are pulling the world's most elaborate April Fool's joke.
There's a lot of supporting evidence to that, frankly, because that's really the only thing that can explain the last 4 days.
Brian, I do want to jump with you first because I've seen some of the hidden numbers. I don't think that this is people are comparing it to 2011, I guess, and that's just silly. Talk to me a little bit about what happened that maybe didn't end up in the result that we saw.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing to note is it's 4 games, and every team has a 4-game losing streak. It would be nice not to have it in the first 4 games of the season. But even the best Astros teams have had losing streaks. So I offer that as perspective that it feels like they're going to go 0 and 162. I don't think they will. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, I'm certainly not a math guy. I would ever pretend to, but I think one of the things I remember being taught was correlation does not equal causation. So the people who keep going to the whole, oh my God, the last time they lost their first 4 games was in 2011. Those two things have nothing to do with each other than cosmic coincidence. I don't think the Astros are winning 56 games this year. No. And that seems to be what some of the even more reliable Twitter accounts that I follow have jumped off to after, especially yesterday.
Yes. My recommendation to everyone, if we haven't done this, is to, have way too many scotches last night. This is what I did until you forget about the weekend and then, move on, right? This is, one of the to me, one of the best parts. I mean, we're all into college football. Your team loses a big college football game. You hear about it. You have to think about it for a week. And frankly, there are plenty of college football games where you keep hearing about it for a year. One of the pleasures of baseball is they'll get at it today. And if they win today, we'll feel a little better. Though obviously if is a big part of that statement.
Well, and I also feel like just watching, and I saw some of the statistics from last night where, yeah, the same problems with runners in scoring position existed, except that there were, I think, 3 batted balls that had an over 70% chance of being a hit, and 3 of those could have won the game. So it does happen. And then there were just a lot of unfortunate baseball stuff, particularly in Game 1, that really does make this 0-4 look different. And I know on the show we are always like, you don't look at the standings until Memorial Day, and so I'm still watching it and I'm judging the games almost on what are signs that I see that it's going to be better, and I saw plenty of them. It's just not all of it came together in one game
ever in 4 games. I mean, there were positives, and I know nobody wants to talk about the positives right now. Christian Javier looked great. JP France looked like a major league starter. Even Fromber had some good notes. He walked too many guys for sure on opening day, but he was getting ground ball outs.
Well, despite pitch count, Hunter Brown threw the ball well.
So starting pitching represented itself well against a team, at least 2 of them. The Yankees were really, really hot coming in. Juan Soto is a demon, and he gets all the praise that he deserves. All the praise he gets.
Yeah.
I don't know if the same is true of Oswaldo Cabrera, but he certainly owned the Astros this weekend.
It was funny to listen to Judge get booed, and finally an old Yankee fan turned around and was like, "Why are y'all booing Aaron Judge?" And I just said 2019, and my wife nodded. So it's like,
but there were so many bad things, and so many of the bad things felt like self-fulfilling prophecies, especially when you talk about middle relief, that it kind of fed into the nothing's going to go right. And it's just snowballed over the course of 4 games because there wasn't one thing that you can pick on and say this thing didn't go well. And that's why. Maybe runners in scoring position you could do that with. But there was just a little bit of everything that went wrong. One game we couldn't field the ball. One game we couldn't hit the ball. One game, we had no middle relief. One game our best closers, all 3 of them decided
at one point. Yeah.
So I mean,
and had they all done that in the same game? I mean, this sort of asked Andy's point here, right? Had there just been like a terrible game or two, you're like, well, sometimes that happens, right? They were in all of the games. They lost 2 1-run games and a 2-run game, which all sort of speaks to how much worse it felt because they could have won them all. They're that close to winning and never they got that part. Soto's throw could have been up the line a little bit and Dubon scores. Tucker could have hit it just, slightly less hard and it would have eluded Verdugo and they scored yesterday. There's plenty of those things where just the small bits added up to something terrible.
Well, and even like Soto's throw is being sort of lauded as this amazing outfield play, but I saw where the average right fielder throws it at 91, and I think his was like 88. So it was just one of those things that.
And Dubon got a bad jump off. I mean, he made a bad turn around third. There was a couple of things that went wrong, and that was, I think, the frustrating part of this whole series was there were more Astros things that went wrong than Yankees things that went right. I really feel, and I know this is, you can say this when you're 0-4. Yeah. The Astros lost this series. I don't feel the Yankees necessarily came in and won this series.
No, I think up until game 3, fully half of their runs came on either walks, hit batsmen, or on unearned. Half their runs.
Yeah, and yesterday was just a good, frustrating game, but it was a good game. The Astros hit. They scored more runs than they have. It felt like they started, especially Yordan Alvarez, started seeing the ball, except for that one at bat where he didn't see anything because it's 3 called strikes right down the middle of the damn plate.
Yeah, he beat himself up in the press conference after that. He's like, I watched the video. I don't know why I didn't swing. So,
but you look up and down the lineup, and with a notable exception that I'm sure we're going to talk about, the hole at first base. Guys are hitting. They're just not hitting in the same inning. Yeah. They're not hitting when it matters, I guess. And that's going to even itself out because this is too good of an offensive team to continue to sputter the way they've sputtered so far in the first 4 games.
I ran the numbers this morning. They had a 98 weighted runs created plus. That's geared to 100 as league average. So they were basically average. Now they should be above average, right? This isn't good. But the problem was they had a 4-something OPS with runners in scoring position. They were completely terrible then. And so that's part of the story. They didn't drive the ball, only hit 2 home runs. Both were solo home runs. But they hit the ball better than, their quality of contact is better than their results. So over the long haul, those numbers should catch up. But individual baseball games aren't played over the long haul. They're played individually. And, yeah, well, this is why I went to Scotch last night. I'm sure others went to bourbon. Everclear for some, whichever is your choice there.
I went to Via 313 Pizza and 3 episodes of True Blood. Jessica's watching it for the first time and she's loving it. One of the things that that I was thinking about and was a little concerned has been Astros fans' reaction to everything. But I did see one point that I didn't think about and I wanted to bring up to you guys. And one of the complaints was that the Astros don't have a dedicated thumper in the lineup. And first of all, I thought that was dumb because Yordan Alvarez hits the ball all over the park. And to me, I thought thumper in the modern sense means strikes out or hits home runs. I'd prefer to have what we have. Is that take wrong or am I missing something? Andy, we'll go with you first.
I read the tweet that I think you're talking about, and it was a
normally reliable account, I feel like.
Yeah, and I'm not picking. Everybody's got their opinions, and there's certainly plenty of them to go around when you start 0-4 against what you think is a rival. But the Astros hit for plenty of power up and down the lineup, in theory. Having a guy that the way it was described was kind of just applauding for, and it felt like they were just talking about Jose Abreu not being Jose Abreu. Yeah. But you want a big plotting guy that just does nothing but hit 50 home runs a year, and the Astros have never had that guy because that's not what wins playoff games. You have guys that are high OPS guys that get timely hits, and they have double to homer power. That's a recipe for having success in the playoffs and long-term success over the course of a season. Having a guy just sitting around playing home runs and hitting home runs and being a liability everywhere else, which is kind of what it felt like they were getting at. We just don't have that guy.
He brought up Evan Gattis as his example.
Yeah. I mean, we could have held on to Seth Beer, I guess, in 2019 because we saw how well his career went with Arizona. I don't know that many teams have that guy anymore. That's just not baseball in 2024. And I read that and I was struggling to think of.
I mean, Aaron Judge might be that guy, honestly.
But he plays a competent center field.
He does.
He probably should be a right fielder at this point in his life, but he plays a competent center field. I don't know what they were getting at other than we're pissed off that Jose Abreu can't hit anymore. That's what the subtext to me of that read. And that I think is a legitimate problem.
Hey, Brian, did you have a response to that too? I mean, like I said,
it was a problem this weekend. They only hit 2 home runs, and they were solos. The Yankees hit 5. But overall, it's a good power hitting team. It has been. They're not huge power. I mean, the Braves are kind of that team. The guys like Ozzie Albies is the guy like I think of, or Austin Riley, who aren't big OPS guys but hit the ball a ton. So, but also leads to think you can succeed in baseball in lots of ways, and obviously hitting over the fence is one of them.
Well, not to pick on those two as an example, but they've made one World Series and one NLCS in their careers.
That's what I guess I don't understand is I know it's frustrating, but people throwing logic out the window with expressing their frustrations by realizing that this is essentially the same construction of a team that won the World Series not even fully 2 years ago, and then has gone to 8 straight ALCSs. Like the strategy is the same, and in fact, the roster is the same. I mean, and I know there's a lot of hearkening back for Yuli, and after watching Abreu play defense, I get it now. But Abreu, I mean, Yuli didn't hit in 2022. We got to remember that. Like, I just don't get the sort of our ability to just because we want to be mad to throw logic out the window.
I mean, that's a characteristic of humans. So,
well, not this guy.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I mean, to that point, I don't think that to a man, I think all three of us were predicting the Astros to be in the World Series, if not win the World Series a week ago. And if you poll the Astros fan base, the ones that are losing their minds on Twitter and other social media forums right now, they all thought it was too. And I think that's part of the frustration that's bubbled out is how could my expectation be so wrong? And you see that a lot. You see it a lot in creative, movie universes, for instance. Well, I think the Marvel universe should do this, and they didn't do that. So my expectations have been dashed. The expectations that I created for myself. And that's a lot of what is happening right now. It's also, we talk about this a lot, the footballization of baseball. You can't freak out over 4 games, even 4 games against the Yankees. You can freak out about 4 games in October, 100%. 4 games in April or May or March, you have time. You have time to fix the problems. You have time to make it up. And at the end of the day, if this was a 4-game losing streak in
July,
the middle of June, it wouldn't make a blip on the radar. The problem is we started off 0-4.
Here's further evidence for Andy's point here. I looked this up, and those come out in the Substack a little bit here. 2017 lost 5 straight games in August. The 2018 lost 5 straight games on 2 different occasions. The 2019 team lost 7 straight, and the 2022 team had lost 4 straight in April. They all won 100 games.
Yeah.
Had we focused only if all we had were those losing streaks to focus on, it would have seemed terrible. To be fair to fans right now, that's all we have about the 2024 season. So we don't know that they're not going to go 0-162.
I do actually. I will place that bet with anybody. I do know it.
This is available. Astros Twitter, Astros our audience. If you want to go 0-162,
my DMs are open. You can go ahead and place whatever bet you want to place with me. I will take it.
There are obviously some questions about the bullpen. First 2 games, they were short-staffed. There was, like you said earlier, Ryan Presley essentially lost game 1. Brian Abreu essentially lost game 3. Josh Hader, especially potentially, I guess, lost game 4. Those are 3 of your guys that you're going to go to every time shit happens. And by the way, if those 3 guys do have a down season, there's nothing you can do to fix it, and that's going to be the season because you're not going to cut those guys. You're not going to trade those guys. So I actually was impressed with, and I know he had a rough game, but I was pretty impressed with Taylor Scott. He had 3 outings, 2 of which he gave up no runs. Last night he went 4. He had 4 outs. Andy and Brian, what were your thoughts on Taylor Scott as a potential bright spot, as maybe one of those guys that can bridge that gap?
If I can start, I think he's fine. He's a middle reliever that was available for a reason. He's going to have flaws. He's not going to be perfect. He's not necessarily going to be any worse than Stanek or Maton were with us because they had plenty of frustrating moments as well. They just happen to be on World Series winning teams, so we value them higher. He's going to have to perform to stay on the roster because the Astros do have a plan, despite it feeling like they don't right now. And it kind of got dashed with Verlander and Urquidy getting hurt during spring training. So if those 2 guys are starting, you now push Ronel Blanco and JP France into your bullpen. Your bullpen is effectively stronger. And so you're not taking a chance on a Parker Mushinski or a Taylor Scott necessarily. Scott won the job out of spring training. He struggled a little bit in one outing. He did okay in another outing. Mushinski is the same way. Those guys are going to be – you're going to get what you get each night from them. Sometimes it's going to be good. Sometimes it's not. I don't think any of the guys that we have on the roster are just who's your buddy that works at the shed, Jim? Your favorite reliever?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not even mentioning his name on the show anymore, Luke Gregerson.
We all have a favorite reliever. We all know as soon as they come in, the game is lost. I don't think any of these
sucks still.
I don't think we have any of these
lost on him.
And we may have guys. Taylor Scott could get shipped out at the end of May when we start getting some pitching back, or he may just not perform or whatever. But I think he acquitted himself well. I think Parker Mushinski had a bad game compounded with a couple of throwing errors, but came back the next night and pitched well. I'm a lot more concerned about Brian Abreu and Ryan Presley at this point than I am about anybody who pitched in middle relief.
We do have a good question that we're going to get to from Bill Kelly in one moment on our comments. Yeah, I was concerned about Abreu first outing. I thought last outing, yesterday his velo looked up. He looked like he just had better control of his pitches. But he did give up runs over the spring, and so did Ryan Presley. And I don't know what that's about, Brian. I don't know if you have any insight on your level of concern about those 2.
They have performed very well over multiple seasons, so I expect that this will be a blip.
Brian, you're not really. We need red meat. Okay, the Astros did complete a trade today. I don't know if we have talked about it, but they have traded for left-handed outfielder, first baseman Austin Murr from the Detroit Tigers. Yay! He's 25 and was at their Florida Complex League. So I don't know what to expect from this. Probably just minor league depth in case somebody else gets moved up. Andy, anything about him?
Just kind of cycling through jokes about Murr. Because evidently frankincense and gold.
Wrong holiday, guys, for frankincense and myrrh.
No, I assume it's. I assume right now it's minor league depth, but you've got to wonder what the Astros front office is thinking with Jose Abreu. Again, small sample size, slow start, but we're building off last year as well, which also didn't start well. Both Abreu and Singleton look lost at the plate right now. And if that's your first base in a position in Major League Baseball where you kind of need to get offense from, that eventually is going to be a problem that the Astros have to address.
They also with both liabilities on defense as well. If you can't do both.
Yeah. And as much as Twitter wants Joey Loperfido to come up and play first base, that seems like a really weird thing because I don't think he's played first base. I may be wrong.
Very hard though.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard, Jim. So we're going to teach, the minor leaguer a new position at the major league level, evidently because he's hit 3 home runs. That is very Astros Twitter. That's the most Astros Twitter suggestion I've heard this weekend.
Brian,
other than kill them all.
Yeah, I mean, right now the first plan is to get those 2 to work. Obviously, the next guy up for the Singleton spot would probably be Trey Cabbage, though it could be Loperfido. Loperfido has played first base because he's basically played every position. He hasn't played shortstop, but he's played most of the other infield and outfield positions, and we're going to put him every day at first base in Sugarland, and hasn't hurt his hitting so far. But
but that's not going to be a tomorrow fix. Like that's going to be
No, you can also find a first. You can also find a, you can find a replacement level first baseman on a trade if you really sort of need to. And so we'll see. We'll see where it goes with Abreu and Singleton.
Andy,
Loperfido's played 51. Oh, just Loperfido's played 51 games in the minors at first base over 2 seasons. He played another 63 in college and 9 in other, which I assume is winter ball.
So it's not the moon to him to continue quoting Moneyball.
Well, it's not the moon, but it's also about a third of what he's done as far as outfield starts. He's primarily an outfielder who happens to be able to play other positions, I think is a better way to classify him. Doesn't mean he couldn't play first base because, I just as soon see Mauricio Dubon at first base at this point because at least I feel like he might hit the ball.
They did miss out on their opportunity to hire Ron Washington to teach him first base, so they are behind the 8 ball there.
Definitely. We do have a question from Bill Kelly.
On Anaheim at some point.
Bill Kelly wants to know whose fault is it and why is it Ted Cruz? More to the point, why is John Cornyn bragging about his inability to make brisket again? Because that still looks raw.
Apparently, the inability to make good barbecue is attractive to Republican primary voters.
I guess they like the
red. They should do a political science project on this.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, that would be accurate because it kind of looked like a diorama of some sort of war massacre that I don't remember from history class. There's a lot of red for no reason.
Yeah. There is a
seemed to be in a shoebox.
Right. That's the other thing. What is happening? I mean, people like brisket when it's burnt. Does John not know that? Like burnt end? Hello. One of the things, though, we have seen criticisms of both Dana Brown and Joe Espada, including racist ones, like somebody asking if Dana Brown was a DEI hire. To me, I don't see where Joe Espada had much opportunity to do much of anything. I kind of do question Hader coming in a game you were behind, but contrary to popular belief, Dusty did that as well several times last season. Overall, though, I mean, I think that I don't see any point in those games where it was a Dana Brown or Joe Espada loss, except for maybe not filling Abreu's roster spot for games 1 and 2. Maybe that, but not really. Brian?
I mean, his best relievers let him down. So, you got losses from each of the top three relievers. None of us think he should be avoiding Presley, Abreu, or Hader. And I think we're all excited to see Abreu finally getting game on Saturday. You knew he pitched Saturday since he was rested. And, well, he pitched better on Sunday is the best way to describe that. So, could he have given a more inspirational speech on opening day, and would that have inspired Dubon to cut the corner better at third base? Maybe, but it's hard to. That's the level I'm at now. Is sort of why it would be Joe Espada's fault.
Now, Bill Kelly would like us to point out that the Astros have never started under 4 when we were under Mayor Turner. That you cannot argue with that logic.
I appreciate Bill's loyalty to his boss.
Somebody should wake up Sylvester Turner and let him know that's true.
I think Bill should. I assume he's got his number. So
yeah.
I will say, as far as Joe Espada goes, I think the things that you saw that were a little bit different than what Dusty would have done, if we're going to go down this road, is
Be
that
transparent in
the
the
Astros,
press conference.
well, no, the Astros are. I don't care about his press conference skills. I could care less if you're going to give me the full scoop on an injury because it does not matter to me. Play who plays. On the field, where I do care, the Astros were a lot more aggressive on the base paths. They actually executed a double steal successfully against a fairly decent defensive team. They looked like they're trying to embody what he talked about with being more aggressive, taking a little more chances. And sometimes what that's going to mean is that Mauricio Dubon is going to get thrown out by a perfect throw from Juan Soto. But I like that call. I like the putting the pressure on the defense to make the right play, because I really feel 80% of the time that's going to work out in the offense's favor. I think you're going to see more of that. I think that we did not get, for all of the bad things that happened. I don't remember a Tootland where Jose Altuve just randomly ran into a glove or anything like that. And usually see that a couple of times a series. So I think the emphasis on some of the fundamental stuff that he was talking about, the emphasis on being more aggressive, I think that bodes well for us as the year continues. And yes, we will eventually win a game. And so some of this stuff is going to feel better than it does right now, where it just feels like window dressing.
Yeah, it's a traditionally slow starting offense. That's what we have seen this year. The difference has been we had a short bullpen the first two games. And again, the guy, like I was the guy who did it in game 3 when I saw Abreu coming out of the bullpen. I sat back like I thought the game was won, because that's if you go to an Astros fan and you say for the other 158 games we're going to hand it to the back end of your bullpen with a lead, they would take those 3 guys every single time, as well they should. So second guess using, like I saw they should have given Abreu the day off because he was rusty. What? Like, huh? So I get the frustration. I guess I just wish that it's not 2018 anymore. This should not be a brand new fan base who doesn't know about baseball yet. And I get jealous when I talk to fans of other teams who clearly know baseball. And then I hear guys from behind me in Astros jerseys standing up and yelling, throw a strike. And then when he throws a strike, well, don't throw it's like that seriously happens. I don't know how to wrap my head around that part of it.
It's a good reminder that people have and always have said dumb things. We just can, we can be more aware of them now in the age of social media.
People seem a lot more proud of them now.
Yeah, they seem to double down on them now, Brian. I don't know.
You can be rewarded in a way for it that our fathers couldn't, hanging out at a bar in 1986, or our grandfathers at the barbershop in 1958. So, that part, I guess, is different. But, I assure you there was some dumb guy in that group making stupid comments then. That is, our children will figure out some way to do this on holograms 40 years from now as well.
Or they'll I guess, use a transporter to fly in there and slap the crap out of somebody and transport out. I'm teaching Star Trek right now in I'm doing a class called Poly Sci-Fi, and so I'm teaching Star Trek stuff right now, so it's just kind of in my head.
Have any conservative parents of your students, because they're going to hate Star Trek.
Luckily, I'm teaching Star Trek in a high school in Austin, so I don't really worry about too much pushback at all.
Everybody should have their tofu plates ready while they're learning from you.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, though, as we get ready to wrap this episode up and start looking at the Blue Jays come to town this weekend? They are a little shorthanded. They made some decisions yesterday to essentially win their game Sunday. I don't know if they actually did, but
they didn't.
They didn't. Well, they tried to roll the dice with using some choices, but we will. I guess we'll see how
they did. I apologize.
They did. Yeah. The Astros are favored in the game, but ESPN matchup predictor has Blue Jays winning it, which, of course, why wouldn't they at this point?
They were favored all weekend. As far as final thoughts, I will say, we talked about positives. I will say that Yainer Diaz was certainly a positive offensively. He looks like he's calmed down a little bit noise-wise behind the plate as well. Framing is still something that he needs to keep working on, but especially if you're going to have pitchers who live in the bottom of the zone, I think the umpires did not help, but I think Yainer probably cost Fromber a couple of strikes just with the amount of noise that he's producing back there. But offensively, he looks like the real deal so far. I have actually been impressed with Jeremy Pena. Error notwithstanding, and I don't expect him to hit 400, but I'd take a 438 on-base average from our shortstop every day of the week and not cry about it.
The only thing lacking still is his power numbers, and I just feel like they're going to come back. I don't know. Maybe not.
I mean, he had a double, and if he becomes a high on-base percentage double guy as a shortstop that plays Gold Glove level defense, you can't really be upset about that. No, that's not Carlos Correa's profile, but that's pretty good compared to just about every other shortstop.
It's like better than Tim Bogar.
Yeah, and I can't believe that Yordan Alvarez is going to continue to slug a 118 as the season goes on. So just the potential there is a bright spot for me.
Yeah, I mean, just the Astros' best players played the worst. Yordan, as you mentioned, key relievers, particularly Abreu. The middle of their order guys were particularly not so good. And so it's sort of Andy, to build off Andy's point, they're not going to continue with that. So it's a frustrating 4 games, and, it's going to take a while to dig out of this, but they are certainly capable of that. And nothing this weekend should change the broader thing that we think that this is a really good team that's still favored to win the American League West. And hopefully they'll play like that tonight.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that I was impressed by, and I would admit, because we had to get back to Vader, we were in the car listening to the last couple of innings, and the choice that Espada made to go to Carantini and not Dubon at the pitch hitting, and Sparky had said before he got his hit that, the way his swing profile matched up against the pitcher better, and and it did look like obviously that worked out because Carantini got a double or a single, I guess, in that outing. So in that at bat. So I think that was a really good, smart choice.
The bench guys, the guys who didn't start on the first day, were like 4 for 12.
Yeah.
So this speaks to, again, are we criticizing Joe Espada? Well, he seemed to have a good hand on when to play his bench guys. I think they were 2 or 3 pinch hitting. Didn't pay off in the end, but some of those decisions worked out.
Well, speaking of working out, this worked out. Now, Brian, you were not.
And I think that for the
okay, Andy.
I'm sorry, we're all lagging evidently.
I'm lagging big time.
I think that goes to the Dana Brown folks. The Dana Brown doesn't do anything, folks. That bench is rebuilt primarily through his efforts. It is a much better bench. It will play out this year over what we had to deal with last year. What Dusty had, the tools he had to deal with. Singleton's still a question to me, but there's reasons he's on the roster. But Carantini is a big pickup. The other guys that Espada has available to him are better than they were last year, and I think that'll prove out. So, good job, Dana.
Yeah, I think. Look, I think this is way too early to freak out about anything. We don't look at the standings until Memorial Day. Dana Brown was also in here primarily to rebuild, or his biggest strength was to rebuild the minors through the draft. We're going to see how that goes, but we'll see how it goes next week. Brian, you're not going to be with us. We're going to pour one out for you. We are going to have a guest host helping us out. San Antonio Tim is going to be joining us, those of you who are fans of this gentleman. And then Brian will be back next Monday. For those of you in the Texas area, we're going to be having our first shoot for Ballpark Nation. It premieres on streaming in June. We'll be at Corpus Christi this weekend, so come out and say hello. Until then, Brian, go Astros.
Go Astros.
Go Astros.